these signs are not, of course, very encouraging for Marxists and very discouraging for this kind of intellectual elite, like you say, if they are not really courageous and standing up for their values, then they just tolerate something what will basically destroy our society, as I understand. So this also leads to the question, why do you think that communism is still so alive in China?
Well, the case of China is very interesting because if you remember Gorbachev and the Perestroika,
yes,
what did happen with Gorbachev? Gorbachev tried to change Russia, and he did a lot of things that was very good at the end, because nowadays all Eastern European countries are free from the communism, and even Russia itself, in some way, has become free from the communism. But it was rejected by the people, and even now it has been rejected. Why? Because it didn't got result in the economic field. And that has been the thing that the Deng Xiaoping did in China. It began little by little to create a market economy. They call it, I was visiting on a consultant's operation for the European Union, China, in 1997, and they call it socialist economy of market. It's a contradiction in terms, but they do that, and they have market. And then the market is essential to decide what to produce or not produce, and they began doing that little by little. They began little by little, given the land given the land to the peasant, and then realize that the production increased a lot when they have their own land. And also they began to create free zone to bring the foreign investment to produce there. And then they allow also to the provinces to offer to this foreign investor their benefit, And also finally they open their doors to the foreign investor. So the economy of China has developed a lot, and also the normal population has enjoyed of this situation. So that have created a support, economical support, that makes that still communist China keep being communist. What does communist China with the foreign enterprises? It's very simple. China nominate as president of the enterprise one member of the Communist Party. But the executive general director, of course, is American, German, French, whatever. I mean, they allow them to manage the enterprise as a private enterprise completely. But they just keep formally the presidency on a member of the Communist Party. But they have let the economy go ahead, and that has created a climate on the population that still resist the communist regime. But at the same time, I would say that the way that China has taken will open its doors for the liberation of the communists in the future. Because when the economy began to be, when people began to have their own properties, their own house, their own flat, their own richness, then they say, okay, we don't like violence, we like to change things. And then little by little began to appear a contradiction with the absence of freedom of speech, and that little by little will become overcome. If Gorbachev appears now in China, for him it would be very simple to change China. Because the problem of the Russian Gorbachev was that the economic situation was very bad, and he wasn't able, in my opinion, to center first in the economy and little by little in the glasnost transparency political aspects.
Yeah, Enrique, there's a very deep insight about this practical side, and basically they allow the Western world to have cheaper goods, but in the end they decide when the game is over, basically, or we are depending more and more, as we could see now in the Corona crisis. We could not have enough medicine, we could not have enough many things what we don't know actually that are coming from China. Suddenly they were not available. So this kind of dependency is some big risk for our Western society, basically. And security reason, I think companies know when they produce in China, they have to give all their secrets to basically away. And that's why in the long run they will actually lose the products basically because somebody copy or somebody make it themselves. So this is like kind of short-sighted thinking from the Western society, and actually also, in my view, very materialistic. What do you think about Cuba? How they could survive 60 years? Because as I think economically it's not going so well there, but still they could survive.
Similar as North Korea. Very similar to North Korea.
Okay.
A strong central power, and that's all. You have power and you submit the population. And that is the way the communists behave. So please, intellectual people, I talk to you, don't be confused. Understand quite clear that communism is based on violence. And the violence keep the dictatorship alive, at least for a while. But at the end, will happen in Cuba, and did happen in Gorbachev, in Russia, and so on. Indeed, in Cuba, something is coming. Of course, when you are a real Marxist, you cannot accept private property, any private property. But at the beginning, time ago, they appear to create what they call paladars, that are a small restaurant.
Oh.
Yeah, paladar. But then the communist regime say, oh, that is given to you a profit. That is against Marxist ideas. So you cannot have more than 12 chairs in your restaurant, 4 tables, because if not, your profit is too much. That happened. But later, that worked well. And then people push the government, and nowadays they accept 50 chairs. I mean, they have increased the number of tables that they can have this type of businesses. And what does mean? That when the thing began to work well, the political forces at the end need to say, okay, that worked well. We need to go in this way. We keep being communist. We keep being Marxist. We keep being against capitalism. Okay, but we let more table, more private property. So little by little, that is going to become. But in the meantime, Cuba has a strong political power, and they leave this thing to come to a floor, to appear, but still they are in control of the power, and they don't like to let free speech, all this type of thing, because they know that when they become that the Marxist ideology, the Marxist power, will be criticized, and little by little it will be abolished.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering, in China, we can hear a lot about persecution of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and that why now actually, because economically it's going not so bad for them, and in Cuba, you don't hear so much about persecution of religion or freedom of speech, basically, or North Korea, of course, is clear because you don't get any information, basically. But what do you think, why they persecute now the people like that?
Well, that is in the Marxist ideology. Religion is the superstructure that is a fantasy to keep people in another way that is not the right way. When the people is under the capitalism, is a way to support capitalism and so on. When they are not in capitalism, the religion is a way to attack the good ideology that is Maoism, is Marxism, this stuff. So they say they still block that. They consider that external influence in China. But what is going to happen? The change in the communist countries at the end are always in the same, basic in the same final point. That is, a new person should get the power and to open the windows and the doors. And that is the way. And that will come because Chinese people, even communist people, have their children, and children have begun to understand other things. They have a feeling of injustice. At the time in the Gorbachev, there were people when Gorbachev was studying at the university with 20, 23 year old that also had this feeling of injustice. And then all that thing pushed, and at the end something began to become open, but also the external influences should keep helping China to develop this openness to other ideas, other vision. One thing also that is very interesting, at the time of Gorbachev, one of the things that helped it in the way of Gorbachev was that the number of Russians that was going to pay a visit to the foreign countries has increased. And nowadays, a lot of Chinese people are visiting other countries in the world. A lot of Chinese people are living in Austria, in Spain, and so on. So their families come from China and see how this nation behaves. And then that, when they go back to China, something is little by little going into the climate, the social climate, and little by little, I think that will change.
Yeah, this is very hopeful what you say. I am really want to believe that this will happen. Just now, China is trying to attack Taiwan, or at least saying they will do if something will not change. So the question is also in like you say, in Gorbachev, he could try to do something, and many East European countries got independent. But what do you think remained after they left the East Bloc? Basically, what are the remains of communism? Basically,
well, the point is the communism is the most powerful brainwashing ideology of the world. Communism is the most powerful brainwashing ideology of the world. Its ideology really indoctrinates people in such a way that when I had the opportunity to live 2 years in Romania in 2004, 2005, I saw that there were already 15 years free from the communism. But even though the private initiative, their sense of selling thing, of marketing thing, was disappeared. They didn't have this. And you see, oh, but here there is a nice restaurant, but no advertisement to come inside. Why is that possible? I mean, they didn't have at all a feeling, a feeling for the businesses. So that became from the public, from the Marxist ideology that adoctrinate them just to become civil servant of the state.
Okay.
That was there. But nowadays, I have realized, I like very much Romanian people because I was living there and I have a feeling for them. But a lot of Romanians are living now in Spain and they are worker people. They have initiative. They have created enterprise for construction, for everything. So now that has taken time because since 1989 until now, a lot of time. But that at the end, you can face this type of indoctrination, but that takes time. That takes time.
Yeah, this is, as you say, or I understand, this is a mental situation, like an attitude towards life. Basically, there's like some empty space there, what is not yet filled with some different, like, vision or utopia. And
also,
what do you think? Why there is even a risk now that the new wage or of communist expansion, especially in Europe, because the Eastern European countries, they know that it was not very nice for them to be in the East Bloc. Even now in the new European, if there are many of them are in the European Union, there still are, of course, economical problems now and other social issues. But do you think they are like looking back and thinking that this was good times, and the other nations are risking to fall under communist dictatorship? What do you think?
well, in Europe, I don't see that as a risk that could become real. Indeed, they try. If we remember, I don't remember, maybe 5 years ago, the crisis with Greece at the time of Varoufakis, they had an economic crisis because they have little by little introduced the idea of public thing, and the public state is the support of everything. That is we are going to talk later about that. And then they create an economy based in lies, in no production, in the pension, but with a lot of expenses of the state. At the end, what did happen? Greece had an external debt so heavy that it couldn't afford it. And at the end, as they become to the European Union, they realize that they need to accept the direction of the European Union in order to change the ways. And then the parties that have led in this way, the parties of Chypre and Varoufakis, were taken away. And now other people is leading and trying to recovering the Greece from this situation. So I think the fact that we all belong to the European Union is in some way a security for avoiding that anyone could try to do that the state lead everything, because there are some duties that each nation has, such as the amount of debt, external debt, the public debt, also the deficit, all this type of thing. Avoid this type of ways. Anyway, there is something that is wrong in Spain. Is happening very much. Is happening very much. That is the way to say all that is public is good, is better. We need public health. We need public university. Okay, I say no problem that have public hospital, public university, no problem. The point is this public hospital and this public university should work efficiently. And why not beside private universities and private hospitals? Because the important for people regarding the health is not that they receive the support for their health from the state, from the public hospital. They can receive also from the private hospital. The point for them is we need to receive that for free, or at least in the case of necessity, to receive that for free. But doesn't matter if the doctor is from a public hospital or from a private hospital. And we need to understand that to avoid confusion, because if not, at the end, in another way, such as health, that is very important, and universities and school, we are going to try to emphasize absolutely the public that, and that often the public, I can unfortunately say that as a former senior civil servant, that the public administration often is not at all efficient. There are ways to make it efficient, but often it's not at all efficient. And it will be very good that always private and public property exist in other activities of each nation.
I understand, Enrique, as a former civil servant, this is your special field, I think. And I must say, I'm admiring these people who are managing a state and in administration, because it's really a huge task. But at the same time, there's so much development, how to develop our cities to be more livable, working place, that everything is getting better. In Austria, for example, is a big discussion now because of our energy system, because electrical energy and sustainable energy. And also through Corona crisis, we realized we cannot produce ourselves even enough food, you know. We import a lot, and so if there's real some problem, then yeah, it will be a big issue. So things I think is for almost all European countries similar, that we actually depend on each other, and this kind of yeah, individual egoistic thinking, of course, will not help the nations to cooperate. Basically, even we are in a quite good situation, basically in the European Union, but still there is, from the past, I realize much resentment in many ways. Many, like some group of people feel not treated well. For example, Austrian borders, there are some languages which are not supported enough, or they don't think they can practice their culture, or some other groups who feel that they are not enough supported. And many times, especially in one city, in Graz, there is the Communist Party very successful, because they are socially helping people practically. So this means that people are actually not interested in the idea, or don't know even what is the communist idea. They just see, oh, the party leader is giving half of his wages to the poor, and they do social work. So they gained a seat in the local government through that. No? But of course, you can see how they act is really to create division among parties. So what do you think, how is this just a mistake from the other politicians, that they are not doing enough socially for people, or is it the people themselves should realize they are actually trapped? What do you think about that?
Well, between the capitalism and Marxism, of course, I am for the capitalism. But the problem of the capitalism, the right-wing parties, is that they lack often hope and example. Hope because they don't have a vision. What is the future? How to create a new humankind? They lack this vision. And that led the Marxist people, the left-wing people, to say, okay, we are worried. We are the ones that take care after the people. You don't take care. So that is a wrong thing to do. So we need that offer to the right wing a vision, a hopeful vision for the future. How to create that? How to create the world? How to make the world to become a one world family? How to do that? And that is possible. Why not? You speak German. I speak Spanish. We are now talking in English. That's not a problem. It's not a problem. Language mustn't be a problem between people. The point is to try to communicate with each other, to exchange, and to try to cooperate. You say, okay, that is Hegelian vision, not Marxist dialectic. Hegelian says, thesis, antithesis. Thesis, I propose a thesis. Then you propose an antithesis, not to fight with me, as says Marxism, but to dialogue with me. And from this dialogue, we reach another level. So that is very important to create that there is possibility for hope. And I think there is a lot of new ideas that are appearing in this way, and try to create a world that could be a family, that could be a horizon of happiness for everybody. Liberty and responsibility, both together, not just receiving, also giving, because if all people want just to receive, it's not possible. We need to receive and to give. That is important to understand that for the political parties. Even the political parties need to be, and I would say that, I would advise that to any political parties, in particular to the right wing, that could be more needed of that. You need to begin to talk in your politician meeting. You need to begin to talk about love. Love. Love is you unite emotionally with the other thing, and you try to create an emotional relation in which you try to help the other to grow, respecting what it is, what he is, and also he do the same with you, and then you become closer. You respect, you give, you help, and then you receive respect, give, and help. Why not to talk in the political meeting to use the word love? That is one point. And the second point is, of course, the example. Hope and example. Example is absolutely necessary. Example of life to be really, especially when there is a case of need, to try to say, okay, we cut down part of our salary, we donate. That is very important aspect to make people trust on you. These are, in my opinion, the two parts that will lead us, both right and left, to a good future.